script that I wrote. Very few of you care at all, but it's fun for me anyway.
Yeah.
Here at Shopify, I'm on the team that runs Apache Kafka. And so I find that I have to deal with the tool called Apache Kafka quite a bit. And so one of the things that I do in that is so there's this third-party tool that I did not write called Kafka Cat. Super great. Because it's basically just a little CLI tool that can do producing and consuming. Okay, so Kafka it's not a message queue, but just pretend it's a message queue for the rest of the talk. I can push messages into it, I can read messages out. Let's pretend that's how it works.
Those two things you can do.
Yes.
It just doesn't queue them.
Yeah. So often I find that I need to either push test data into it, or I need to look at the data that's in there because someone is like, hey, I think maybe my messages are gone, and I have to go show them that they're not, or that they are, or any number of things. There are reasons why I might need to do something. Just trust me, they're there. It can also, one of the things I actually use with it the most is the ability just to like list metadata, to be like, hey, what are the different topics that this thing has, and what are the brokers that are currently running, because sometimes one of them might look down, and then I go look and it's actually up and my metrics are lying to me all the time. Okay, so Kafka Cat's a delightful tool, but if I just do this real quick, this is not Kafka Cat, just ignore me for now.
I'm so confused.
Okay, so here we also have to run Kubernetes, ignore that part. But so here's all my brokers.
What's a broker?
It's the thing that runs the queue, the things that are in the Kafka cluster that all the events get pushed to.
Why is there more than one?
Because it's clustered and redundant. And I have many, I have 30 in this particular cluster. So, the problem is they're all running somewhere else, and they can all talk to each other over plain text, but for reasons we don't expose our message brokers to the whole of the internet over plain text. That would be foolish. So instead, what we do is we use client certificates to authenticate. So basically, any person who wants to talk to Kafka is given a cryptographic certificate to prove that they are allowed to do that. Which is really great because it's easy as hell, if you know crypto. And it's not even knowing crypto. If you know how to use the OpenSSL command, which does all the things, never write your own crypto. So, all of that's okay, and Kafka Cat has the ability to do SSL certificates, but it's a little bit of a pain. So, it's easy enough, but it was tedious. So, at some point I wrote this thing. So if I go into my bin folder of random goodies, I have a thing called Kafka SSL. This is bash and it's mostly comments. But basically it says I've got this folder where I put my certificates, and then what I do is I immediately replace myself with actual Kafka Cat, except I've provided these kind of default options. So I say I have the SSL security protocol. This is my certificate authority, this is my client certificate, this is my client key. And then I take the rest of the arguments that my Kafka SSL script got, and I just kind of dump them all to Kafka Cat one at a time. Because I'm not actually changing how Kafka Cat works, I just didn't want to have to cut and paste these 100 times a day when I'm talking to my clusters, so I did this instead. So it basically just hard codes these things and passes all the options through. So that allows me to be like Kafka Cat, no, not that one. SSL, Kafka, oh my god, so many. Nope, not 435, 35. And now that'll go do all the certificate authority stuff on the front for me, and then it passes through this -LB and the broker that I want to connect to verbatim to Kafka Cat from there. So it kind of takes it from there and does all the things it wants. So that works. And I used that for many months. But then I thought to myself, what about these words? Those are also a lot of words I type a lot every day, and I don't want to do that either. And in fact, so I can specify here any broker or a number of brokers separated by commas. And every time I want to talk to the cluster, I have to remember exactly how it's written, and then I have to pick one or more than one to actually plug into this thing. And then it got more complicated because we set up a different cluster that uses a different certificate authority. So I can't just have Kafka SSL because that uses one certificate, but on this other cluster I need a different certificate. So then I add Kafka AG SSL, which is just cut and paste the whole file, and it just changes with the part where it gets a certificate and it uses a different one. And then I have to remember something that's like Kafka aggregate. I mean, it's our own fault for making up these stupid names. Kafka aggregate US Central 5 or something like that. And that got tedious-er. And then there was probably some third option. But anyway, so instead what I wrote is Kafka SSL2. The sequel to Kafka SSL, the script I wrote for myself. It was widely anticipated. It was a big deal when it came out for me. But this one is ridiculously more complicated, and but only because it's longer. It's not actually a lot more complicated. I just went a little over the top. Yeah. So with Kafka SSL2, before I go in and show you what it does, allows me to do things like east. And then I just hit enter, except over the 30 lines. And then it works. How does it work? It's magic. Ignore that. Things are only a little bit on fire right now. Oh shit, I bet that's no problem. Please hold. No, it's the same thing as been broken all day. Alright. So east. And then I could say central. And it'll be a different set of brokers, none of which are named central. And then I've got like central ag. And this is the crazy aggregates cluster, but that one's even using a different certificate. And you might ask, how did I accomplish this magic? And the answer is with a for loop and a switch statement. So let's go look at that. Anyone who's seen me speak before knows that the next words are the words I always say. This could be cleaned up a lot. You shouldn't use this as like the right idea on how to write software. This is a thing I hacked together for my own use. And maybe someday I'll get around to refactoring it, but for now I won't.
It looks perfect.
Yeah.
Wait, never mind. I already found a bug.
Yeah. So basically what I do is this. First of all, I use bash, which normally I don't, but in this case I used it for something. And Steven and I have already talked about that, so it's okay. So the first thing I do is I take all of my arguments, that's the dollar, for people who don't know any shell, $@ in quotes basically just says, I want all of the arguments I was given. And then the quotes mean, but I want you to keep each one as a separate argument. I don't want you to just kind of mush them all together into one big-ass argument that ruins all of my life. So just keep them together, but I want all of them. So this is basically just taking all of my arguments and putting it in an array called args, because I'm clever. Then I don't even think I use this. Maybe I do. And then I make a new array called SSL args, which are empty. And then I go into my for loop. Normally I don't write bash code that does anything, or any code really, these days. But that's okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying, go from 1 to the number of arguments minus 1, from 0 to my number of arguments minus 1, and so that's a for loop, and then I store each one in I. Normally, the way that you would do this in bash is something that looks like this, for argument in that, because I would just want to take each argument that comes in, and I want to like do something with each of them, with my arg here. That's not what I'm doing today. I am doing terrible things. So I'm actually iterating over the indexes into my array of arguments, which is what this line does. Seek, by the way, is just a command that's super great. It's one of my favorites. It just returns the sequential list of numbers from the start number to the end number. I use this all over the place. A lot of good fun has been had with C. I think it even works this way. Look at that. You're fucking incredible, right? Okay. So I use this to get my list of numbers, and then I iterate over all of them in my for loop. And then I do this bad thing where I say, okay, so if the argument at the current index is east, then instead the argument at the current index is this hard-coded list of all of the east brokers that I've got. So in this case, I'm just like swapping the east. I don't actually want east. Just turn east into this big-ass list of things. And then also go to this SSL args array, this unrelated SSL args array, and jam this stuff in, which is the stuff that I had in my original Kafka SSL Kafka SSL script. I'm just jamming it in here now, and then later that'll get jammed on the front. That's basically its purpose. And then I say, okay, but maybe it's not east, maybe it's central, in which case it's this other different big-ass list with args. And then I say if it's central egg or cloud egg, because I made multiple ambiguous options in my own script because I kept mistyping them as each other. So I just said, screw it, I'll accept both from myself. Then I use this list of brokers and this SSL args, which if you are very close looking, you might see is very slightly different because this uses global certs and this uses Shopify name certs. Other than that, it's exactly the same. But either way, so if I'm using my aggregate cluster, it'll use my aggregate certs. So, whoops, I don't want to do whatever I just did. Okay, so that kind of works, but sometimes when I'm using this thing, I want to use a particular broker because I want to test that like Kafka 24 is responding, not just any Kafka broker in this whole cluster. So then I'm going to want to go, okay, I said 24, but I can't see it on the screen, so I'm going to use this one. Oh, it's right at the bottom. It's literally the nearest one. Okay, I'm using this one now. You lost the chance. So then I might want to use a particular one, and it still works. And that's the next feat of incredibleness. I say if the argument that goes through grep matches this regular expression, where it looks, if the argument kind of looks like Kafka aggregate US central, then leave it. Don't screw with that argument. It's I chose it for a very particular reason, but do set up the SSL for me for the aggregate cluster, because I'm probably going to want that later or it's going to explode. Similarly, I've got this other one. Do I even have that in here? Whatever. There's another cluster here called Nanny, and I do a similar greppy thing, and I say, aha, I use that key in this case instead of the other key. Then I've got some more clusters. I'm not really sure why these are at the bottom. I probably should organize this better. Either way, I've got some other clusters in here. They've all got their own certificates and stuff. Super cool stuff. I duplicated one of them. Anyway, so that's kind of the big gist, is it goes through and it does all of these replacements from one argument to another, but other than that, most of the things just get passed through. So when I go through and I run this here, the thing that it actually sees at the end is Kafka SSL, or sorry, Kafka cat -lb, and then the big list of brokers. Which means that I didn't have to go in, because it's possible that in order to write a wrapper script, I might have to go through and parse out every option that my downstream script expects and supports, so that I can pull all of them into my own variables, and then all I do with it is go over here and drop them all back out, except like I changed this one thing. So what this allows me to do is it allows me to swap the arguments out in place, and then anything I don't recognize, I just pass straight through, so I don't actually have to implement any of its argument passing, which is pretty fun. But there's one or two more things. So down here I say if any of these have the port 9093, which is the SSL port, just assume that I'm doing something weird and give me the normal certificates that work most places. But then down here I'm saying if my argument looks like -x custom, which is not an option that Kafka Cat even supports. I made that one up. Then what I want to do is, so then what I do is I take my argument and I dump it into sed here to pull the thing before the colon off of the front, and then do this other thing to pull the thing after the colon off of the front, and push those into new cert and new key, and then I unset the argument that I'm currently looking at. Now, luckily, bash arrays are allowed to be sparse, which means that I could have something at position 0 and 1 and 3 and not have anything at 2, which most languages consider a bug, but bash is like, it's fine, it's cool. So what I do here is I say, I don't actually want to pass this X custom argument through to this subscript that I'm using. I want to get rid of it. So I just blow that whole index of my array away. But it's okay because that doesn't cause everything to like shift down by 1, in which case I would miss one of my arguments or something. It just doesn't have a 2 anymore, and it's okay with that, so that's nice. And then I set my SSL arguments here to something particular. I set them to the certificate that I was given with X custom. And then similarly, I've got like an XEgg, which where again I just remove the XEgg and then I set it to the aggregates cluster. So if all of my above guessing was wrong, or if I'm doing something weird, I can just pass -xegg on the back and it'll use my aggregate certificates, and that's fine. I still don't have to remember where they are on my machine to actually go find them every time I want to use it. I can just throw this on the back, and that works. One of the other things that I use this for is making sure that I didn't fuck up the SSL config for my brokers. So I'm like, okay, I can connect to this. That's great. But can anyone connect to this? Or like you know, because maybe it looks like it's working, but that's actually because the brokers aren't validating any of the certificates, and it sees that I gave it some and was like, I don't care, and it just lets me have access. So sometimes I'll purposely pass the wrong set of certificates to the cluster just to make sure that it fails every once in a while. It says, yeah, no, okay, I did pass you totally valid certificates, and you said no, which is exactly what I was hoping you would do. It doesn't always happen that way, but luckily I've never had a problem except in staging, where we specifically don't put data. Oh, I don't have staging in here. Huh, anyway. Similarly, I've got like xplain that just completely empties out my SSL arguments. So it says, if something earlier set this to something, unset it, just make it so that there's nothing there. None turns on SSL mode, but doesn't give it any client certificates, so it still connects as though the server wanted to have a secure connection, but it doesn't authenticate itself, which I've also used for stuff. And then debug just sets debug to true, and then unsets its arguments again. And so that's basically just because sometimes I want to see what this is doing because I'm testing, and other times I'm cut and pasting this command out to other people because I don't want to give them my whole script because they wouldn't appreciate it properly. But they do still need to talk to Kafka. So I can do that, and it says, okay, this is what I generated. Where like here are those options for the SSL, and here is the big list of stuff. And if I do -x plain, because that'll be easier to see, you can see that I don't have any of those X security protocol stuff on the front. So yeah, basically I can just dump it out to myself. I can sanity check what the hell it was about to run, and I can cut and paste that to other folks. And so the last thing is basically just what debug does is down at the bottom I say if debug is 1, then I echo this, otherwise I exec this. And I just dump SSL args in here, and again, the fact that it's sparse doesn't matter. And if I only have 0, 1, and 3, it'll put 0 and then 1 and then 3 next to one another. It doesn't error out when 2 isn't there, or like inject a big blank spot for some reason. So yeah, and then I dump all the rest of my args that I didn't change onto the end. And like I said, echo will print it out if debugged, otherwise exec will run it as though it were me. And that's basically the whole script. I mean, it's literally the whole script. I'm at the bottom now. So since I named it Kafka SSL 2 because I didn't want to get rid of Kafka SSL 1 in case this whole thing was a disaster or it turns out that I needed to use this non-smart version. But since I finished this one day last week, I've been using it exclusively, and I'm super pleased with it, which is why I'm showing it at all. Like as a script, it's but I'm super excited. I also have another wrapper script that I use for Kubernetes, which I wrote using a bunch of hacks. That now that I've kind of come up with this approach to wrapping scripts in scripts, I might go in and revise that other one and have it do some clever stuff too. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Questions? Yeah.
At the beginning of your presentation, you said that Kafka is not a message queue, but we should pretend that it is for the duration of your presentation.
Yes.
So if it's not a message queue, then what the hell is it?
It's so a message queue at its core uses a queue as its kind of like base data type. So like a normal CS queue, right? It takes messages into the end and it pops messages off at the front. And so it's got like order and first in, first out properties, etc., CSQ. At the core of Kafka is a distributed log, an append-only log instead of a queue. So basically its core operations, instead of push into the end and pull, like consume off of the front, instead it's push onto the end and read anywhere in the whole range in a non-consuming manner. Like with a queue, if you run pop, 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 then like you've now lost 3 messages. Whereas with an append-only log like Kafka, if you run like read, you've just read 3 messages, but anyone else can still read them. They're still there. The broker still has them. And you can reread them again later, and they're still there. You can read forwards. 3 people can read at once, whatever. So that's the fundamental thing that makes it not a queue. It can still be used for many of the things people use queues for, but it's not always ideal at those because it has its own set of tricks and constraints and semantics. Which, if you were to take a library that's meant to abstract over like RabbitMQ or something, and then just like build a Kafka backend, there's going to be some shitty edges that you weren't anticipating. But like once you know how it works, it also has nice properties too. That's the quick version of that presentation. Yeah. And sorry, did that answer your question?
Yeah, that was an excellent answer.
Thank you. Excellent answers is what I strive for. Does anyone else have questions? Either about this or Kafka or computer science, I guess.
What would you use instead of bash?
Well, so normally, normally I use shell, like sh, which is has a standardized description of its command language. And then there are multiple implementations of the sh command language. Bash happens to mostly be one of them, and it's the one that many people use. And not all shells even support it because some of them are assholes. But there is like a standard for I can even show you. There's nothing embarrassing. Oh, that's just the broken thing. POSIX shell command language. So there's this whole big document over here that goes through like a whole standard. This is what shell should be. And then anything that puts at the top of its file bin sh should, if you want to pretend to be bin sh, you should support this command language. So if I write something in this, then it doesn't matter which version of sh you have installed, because you're using the standard and it's interoperable and all that jazz. So normally I write in sh because bash has a couple of features that they've added, but I don't tend to need any of them ever. Like, here's a fun one. So I could write like if, this thing, or let's say thing, and so this will say if this, if the value contained by thing is not empty, then echo ooh. But if I do this, that's now standard shell. So, like, there are reasons to use double square brackets, or in that there are things that double square brackets allows that standard shell doesn't, but there are usually ways to get around them anyway, like using other commands for things. But, so normally I just don't, I try not to use the bash specific extensions because I don't need them, and it's less standard, and I try to be standardy sometimes. But in this case, the one feature that standard shell does not have is arrays, which I'm making very heavy use of here in this particular script. So there isn't really a way in standard shell, without diving into some crazy escaping trickery, to have a series of values that I interpret as different from one another, and then I just kind of change the ones in the middle. Which, given that that's all that this script does, is change values in the middle of an array of arguments, I decided it was okay. For me. You guys can use whatever you want, but you should use SH though. In terms of other things, so I also could have used Ruby for this, which is another language that has arrays. But in this case, I already had a shell script, and I was doing another thing in the middle here where I didn't need arrays yet, and then I threw that part in later, and it was like, oh shit, whatever. And it was easier to just like type VA up at the top here and use the arrays that are in this new language I've just opened myself up to. Yeah, so I mean, I could use Haskell, but in this case, it's all I'm really doing is munging a list of strings so that down here I can shell out. And I can do that in practically any language. But shell happens to make it really easy to shell out to itself. And so this part is great. Yeah, that's the long answer for, it's not a great answer, but it's what I did. Other questions?